We're live here with the total NASL Roundtable. How are you guys tonight?
Doing well.
Doing
Doing
great.
good.
Thanks for
Very well.
having
Okay, so let's talk about Wednesday night soccer. Indy 11, they defeated the Tampa Bay Rowdies 2-0. Michael, can you talk about how it felt being on the winning end of that result?
finally on the winning end. Finally, there was a 5-game streak there where Indy 11 only collected 1 point out of 5 games. They lost 4 of those 5 games. Their last 3 games, they had 3 games in 8 days. Their second of those 3 games, they had to travel around 3,000 miles round trip to go play FC Edmonton on a Wednesday. Then, of course, they had 10 days off, so I'm sure Tim Regan and his staff used those 10 days wisely to get the boys in blue well rested for the Rowdies game last night, and it showed tremendously. The rest, these 10 days, have been wonderful for the Indy 11. I mean, they came out and were energetic. They were all over the field. They were closing down space, pressuring the ball, kind of like what we saw at the beginning of the spring season with Indy 11. Duke Lacroix played really well as an outside midfielder. They were utilizing him all the time in the first half, trying to get within the attack. Zach Steinberger was finally that attacking midfielder that we've been looking for since Dylan Mares went down with a torn meniscus. He was able to spread the ball out in the attack, finding the outside mids and the forwards at space and through gaps. And then on top of that, he was dropping back on defense, winning the balls in crucial areas to really generate and start the counterattack for the 11. Eric Morales, their last game against Ottawa, after that game, he sent a letter on Facebook to the Brickyard Battalion, the supporters group of Indy 11. And I think that kind of sparked something with the fan base and with him, and he came out and was just absolutely tremendous. And of course, he capped it off with a tremendous goal at the end. It was on a free kick, and really, if you look at it from the angle that I'm sure they'll probably show it on next week's plays of the week, it really doesn't do it justice, because I was sitting in the front row right behind the bench, and he put a lot of power behind that ball, and it went up and over that wall, upper 90. I mean, it was just amazing to see. But really, the unsung hero last night was Dragan Stoikov, the right outside midfielder for Indy 11. He was dropping back on defense. Nobody could get past him in 1v1 situations. Then he was sprinting forward in the attack and helping Indy 11 generate attacking opportunities. So overall, the boys in blue did really well last night. They were finding their target player, the number 10, who was Steinberger last night. They were finally able to do that. They were getting within the attack. The center backs weren't turning the ball over, so it was all around. It was just a good effort by the boys in blue, and they were rewarded with that with 2 goals and 3 points.
Do you think the team is going to be confident going into the matchup against the Silverbacks?
I think they are. I really do. I think neither the Silverbacks or Indy 11 played very well. They didn't play real well at all. It was a pretty sloppy game to watch the last time that these two teams played in early August. It was a grinded out, very physical match. The 11 have to work on a few things, I think, in order to be successful against the Silverbacks. One is how they're going to deal with playing numbers down in the midfield. Silverbacks like to play 5 in the midfield. And because of that, they weren't able to generate any width in the attack or switch the point of attack at all. Silverbacks players were pressuring the ball and being very physical. That forced a lot of turnovers in the midfield. And then on top of that, Silverbacks like to play with a back 3 with Mincing, McKenzie, and Black. They were very, very physical against Brian Brown and Dane Richards, which you would think that small, quick guys could counter big physical guys who are real strong, but they couldn't get around them. So I think last week when the Silverbacks played the Armada, their outside backs were getting up and down the flanks and were kind of causing some issues for the Silverbacks. And hopefully Kyle Highland and Marco Frankel will be able to get up in the attack more and kind of overload the flanks to help Indy 11 out, with the midfield situation and with the back line of the Silverbacks.
So, Spencer, how did it feel to be on the losing end of to defeat?
Well, it never feels good, but it was what we kind of expected seeing the team in the last few weeks. We knew Thomas Rongener, a lot of us thought he was going to make some changes to the starting 11. He actually made 6. Put Matt Pickens back in goal, and you were trying to see if he was playing a different team because he didn't want, starters or people that normally play to be tired for the game on Saturday against Minnesota. So when we went to the game, the first 15, 20 minutes, it looked like we were going to get something done, even though we weren't really putting any pressure on, Indy 11 at all. We were holding possession, everything good, but the lack of creativity in the midfield, once again has gotten to us, where we can't get the ball up forward to any forwards putting attacking pressure, and we just turn over the ball, and then right from there it's just counterattacks, and that's where a lot of Indy 11's scoring opportunities and goals came from, where from us turning over the ball and putting our defense into bad positions, into 3-on-2s, 2-on-1s, 2-on-2s, etc. like that. So if they got to figure something out because we have only one true goal scorer also in Maicon Santos, and then with last night we didn't start Georgi Hirstrov, which is our leading assist player and probably one of our better attacking midfielders. Where in attacking mids, because we have a lot of defensive-minded mids on our team, and then last night with Minjivar and Justin Chavez starting, Chavez really isn't, I think, starting quality player. He comes off the bench, it's good, but he played next to Minjivar in the holding mid area, and Minjivar is good, but I think he needs another quality player next to him so that he can shine bright. He can't really hold it down himself, and without us being able to create good offensive attacking plays and get the ball to Maicon and Darwin Espinal that was up top so they can actually get shots on goal and then get some pressure off our defense, it's not going to end well, so hopefully things turn around.
Dio, the Fury have been on a winning streak, and it finally came to an end against Minnesota United. And we heard Paul's clapping, but we heard that there was a big crowd on hand. So can you talk about the fan experience at the match and talk about the loss to Minnesota United?
Yeah, 7,000 people showed up for the game, which is the biggest crowd of the year, and it's our biggest crowd since the first match at Lansdowne Park Stadium last year, where the New York Cosmos came in and we had 14,000. So it's an encouraging sign. It's not a special event of any kind that took place. It was just a regular season game, and people wanted to come see a team that was on a winning streak and an unbeaten streak. The energy was really high in the stadium. Everybody who went to the game thought that it was an excellent atmosphere at the game. Unfortunately, the Fury lost. They weren't able to hold on to a draw in the end. It was 1-1 into stoppage time, and Minnesota earned a foul outside of the 18-yard box, and one of their substitutes, Mendez, stepped up and really put in a beautiful free kick that was inch perfect. If it had been an inch to the right, it was hitting the post and out. Instead, it hit the post and in, and the Fury keeper Paiser was right there. He got his fingers to it, so it had to be in that spot, and that's exactly where it went for the Loons to go up 2-1. The Fury was furious at the call that gave the free kick away, but I think, well, I don't know. They say they looked at the replays and they said that they looked at the replays and said, yeah, it was never a foul, not even close. And I don't know. I thought it was a foul when I first saw it, and when the replay showed, to me it was a foul again. So there wasn't that much controversy on my end. But Mendez, when he scored the goal, he ran over to the supporters section, and he tore off his shirt and started yelling, "Bring it, bring it, bring it," which the Fury fans did by tossing stuff onto the field at him. The Fury coaching, not the Fury coaching staff, but the Loon coaching staff ran over in a panic, trying to pull their players away from the supporters section. They were quite angry at their player for doing that. Yellow card was issued, and it just all these things are awesome. Like, they're controversial, they're great, and everybody who was there is talking about it, and they were invested in what happened. So it's a great turn of events, even though the Fury lost.
There was one thing about that wasn't awesome. You had somebody in second half stoppage time that still had a full beer.
Yeah, what's wrong with the
What's
Fury
wrong with
people?
that? I mean, seriously, come on.
Yeah, that's not something that happens often in that supporters group, let me tell you.
So let's move on to the Rowdies. Lost once again. A derby matchup, 2-1 against the Strikers. So Spencer, can you collab on another loss?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about another loss. You know, it was the same problem as you saw Wednesday. Anything that happened, it's the same things happened. Those two games, we play long balls the whole time, and the ball, you look at the possession stats, it looks like we hold the possession good. It looks like we're holding the ball and everything, and we should theoretically be having good scoring opportunities, but the possession that we do hold is really like midfield to defensive. Like, they'll have the ball go midfield and they can't get it forward, so they pass it back. They'll move along the line down and go up the other wing. And it goes like that, and it just comes back down and moves along like that. And then they'll just have one good pass, run up, and they'll cross the ball in, lose the ball, turn it over, and then they get good attacking things because our midfield so far forward, they don't come back to play defense, and then it puts our center backs, which they're not the fastest center backs. They're very strong and physical, but they are not that fast, especially Tamika, who got a yellow. It wasn't good, and wasn't good to lose that because now the Strikers hold their fate in the Coastal Cup. They have the same amount of points as us, but they have the 2 wins on us, and they have a lot more away goals. So they could possibly win the Coastal Cup in that. So we'll have to see. Hopefully things happen on Minnesota. Hopefully we get at least 1 point, because it'd be scary to think in a 7-day span that we miss out on 9 points and get 0 total.
So hopefully we see some good results for the Rowdies. So let's move on to Paul. The Silverbacks lost to the Armada.
Yeah, we won the loss to the Armada last Saturday. The attacking spirit that we'd seen for the last 4 or 5 matches was not there. And what I suspect is happening is that playing on that AstroTurf in Atlanta in August, when it's 110, 120 degrees on the field at the start of the match, is starting to take its toll. Paul Black was subbed off in the 63rd minute. That was the first time he had been subbed off all season. He played every minute of league play. The other two in the back three, our captain Simon Mensing and Rashawn McKenzie, the right back, have played every single minute in league play. And what I was afraid of, I think might have actually happened Saturday. I think they're tired. I think they need more rest just to recover. As I said on my podcast this week, I'd hate to see them put themselves in a position to make the playoffs and just run out of gas because they're not utilizing their bench. I realize we don't have a very deep bench, but some of those guys got to step up and play, or I think we're going to see a few more matches like we saw this past Saturday where we weren't being aggressive, we weren't going after the ball in the midfield, we were content to sit back, and that 3-5-2 more often than not was a 5-3-2 and sometimes a 6-2-2 because the defensive midfielders and the left and right midfielders would drop back, and we'd have 6 across the back at times just because we were content to withstand the pressure. I thought it was a good goal from the Armada. It was a rebound, but the reaction on that was fantastic to put it in. They did have a penalty in the, I think it's the 88th, 89th minute, at the very, very end of the game, which he tried to chip it in and just awful. Stuart Seuss caught it in the air. After going the wrong way, he had time to go back and get it and catch it in the air. It looked awful. But I thought the Armada were a much better team, especially in the second half. I'm afraid we're a little tired, and I'm hoping that maybe this Saturday there's a little bit more substitution and maybe a little there accommodation for you're playing in Atlanta in August on that hot AstroTurf. I think there's got to be some subs, even though it's a noticeable drop off in quality, especially in the back line. I think there's just got to be some subs. Otherwise, I think we're going to see some players start to break down now.
Hey, Paul, do the Silverbacks have a full lineup, a full roster, or is there a depth problem there? I seem to remember you saying something about that.
We have 25 under contract.
Okay.
We have plenty of players, but after, especially on the defense, after the back three, and I think you could count Kimura as a central back. He's played in MLS as a center back. I think it drops off drastically. Isahaku, who came in the 63rd minute for Paul Black and played at left back, he was promoted from the reserve side at the very beginning of the fall season. So young player, local product, great guy, but he's 18, 19 years old, and he's got a lot to learn. So there is a severe drop-off in defense, and our manager, Gary Smith, is a defense-first-minded manager.
Okay, thanks.
Paul, you talked last week about the reserves coming into the squad. Can we see some coming into the squad in the future?
They promoted just a couple from the reserve squad, and Isahaku is the only one who's really gotten any kind of significant minutes. He's played in the midfield as well a little bit, especially earlier in the fall season. So I know Jonathan Okafor just returned. He was on loan, and I can't remember whether he was the one that went to Arizona or one that went to the Switchbacks, the Colorado Springs. One of those two teams. And he just came back. Arizona. Okay, he came back today. It was announced today that he's back, so I'm assuming he's going to be available. He had significant minutes in the spring season now, so I expect to see him go in pretty quickly. Probably there on the left side of midfield. We'll see what the substitutions, what kind of substitutions Gary Smith comes up with. But I think those have got to start happening. Otherwise, we're going to be in trouble by the end of September. We're not going to have any legs left.
Jason, the Carolina Railhawks they haven't had some great results. They lost 3-0 to the Eddies. Can you talk about their recent results?
Yeah, that's 2 games in a row that we've lost 0-3. Pretty rough. We had lost 2 weeks ago to Jacksonville Armada when Jacksonville was literally on the bottom of the table, which that's tough to swallow, but it was on the road. Then we lost on the road to Edmonton 0-3 as well. I really think it was a perfect storm of everything going against us into that Edmonton game. So what we're actually facing going into the Edmonton game, well, our defense is significantly depleted right now. So going into the Edmonton game, it was only our second game without recently retired Wes Knight. And Wes Knight has been a player who literally played every single minute on defense the entire season up to the point right before the Jacksonville game. So going into Edmonton, it was only our second game without that steady right back presence. So the other missing component was Compono Low, who is our, I guess, Railhawks Godfather players, the last original Railhawk on the team, but a huge staple in defense. He was out with a leg injury for the Edmonton game. And the third missing component, one of our subs, Daniel Scott, who was serving a red card suspension. Now, the game before against Jacksonville, when Caponolo got hurt, they put in Daniel Scott, and Daniel Scott lasted a full 2 minutes before he got that red card, so pretty bad. So going into the Edmonton game, who do we actually have? We had Footy Danzo, we had Blake Wagner, and we had Connor Tobin. That's not good when you always play with 4 defenders. We literally only had 3 defenders on our team with any sort of playing experience. So we had to put a midfielder, Chris Nurse, into our right back position. And who did Chris Nurse have to guard all game? None other than Lang for Edmonton, who is one of their best. Well, he's an attacking midfielder, and unfortunately, Nurse had a handful. Now, Nurse, he used to be an Edmonton player, so maybe we were kind of hoping for that familiarity with Edmonton to kind of bank on, knowing the players and maybe even knowing Lang a little bit more. But no, it was a lot to handle. And the other thing going against the Railhawks was the superstar for Edmonton, even more than Lang in my opinion, Amiobi or Amiabi, I don't know how to pronounce it, but that dude has been on fire. Sorry, what is it?
Amiobi.
Amiobi. So Amiobi, he's been on fire, scoring over about 80% of his matches this season. He's been scoring, which is ridiculous. And he got his against the Railhawks, so he actually broke it open with the first goal. Lang got the second goal, and at this point, it's hard to say that when you've let up 3 goals in each of the last 2 games to say this, but I truly feel that our best player these past 2 games has been Akira Fitzgerald, our goalie. Because without him, we could have been 5 goals or 6 goals that we've been allowing. So the fact that our defense is so depleted, it's hurting. And going against such a rock star duo that Edmonton had, we were in trouble from the very beginning. Now, on the flip side, why aren't we scoring? I don't know if it's tired legs. Nacho Novo, who's one of our older team members, Nacho Novo, though he leads the team in goals, we're on the back end of the season, so he might be kind of slowing down at this point. I don't want that to be the reality, but it potentially might be. We've been giving a lot of giveaways in the midfield. Against Edmonton, we only had 4 actual scoring chances the whole game, so that's not good. I mean, Edmonton, they dominated us on all ends of the pitch, so kind of rough. But finally, we get to come back home. We're going to play your New York Cosmos. Well, I don't know if I can call it your New York Cosmos. You are wearing a Railhawk scarf today, so maybe it's your listeners' Cosmos team, since you're, I guess, joining our Railhawks family all of a sudden. But no, we'll see what happens this weekend against Cosmos.
Just joining the team for one night. That's all. Okay, so let's move on to Michael Carney. Michael, you guys face the Silverbacks, Paul's Silverbacks this weekend. As you said before, the confidence is going to be high.
Temperatures are going to be really hot in Atlanta, so that might play in a factor. Might give Atlanta a little bit of an advantage because it rained last night, and now the temperatures in Indianapolis are in the mid to low 70s, and tonight's low is supposed to get down in the 50s. That'll happen until about Sunday, and then temperatures will start rising again. So I think the heat will play a big factor. But really, the 3 main keys for Indy 11 going into this game is just how are they going to deal with the 5 midfielders for the Silverbacks. How are they going to deal with that physicality? Can they switch the field or at least get within the attack? And how are they going to deal with the back 3 of Atlanta? And, of course, how are they going to deal with Chavez and Pedro Mendes up front for the Silverbacks as well? Because their combinations up front, the last time they played the 11 was absolutely remarkable to watch. So, which, is kind of bittersweet, I guess, because all the supporters in the club here in Indianapolis really wanted to see Pedro Mendes, including myself, succeed here in Indianapolis, but for some reason it just couldn't work out, and he's back with Atlanta succeeding. So, that's what I'm looking for. Hopefully, we're able to, Indy 11 will string together a few wins here and might hopefully get back into a playoff picture, or at least looking outside the last 4 spots heading into the last few games, and maybe punch home a playoff ticket here towards the end of the season.
What are your match predictions?
My match prediction, my heart says Indy 11 will win 2-0, seeing that Atlanta's having some issues in the back, some tired legs. My head's telling me it's going to be a brutal 0-0 or 1-0. But for some reason, I think just going to Atlanta, it might turn the other way and go, and the Silverbacks might get 3 points. But fingers crossed, Indy 11 will bring home 3 points.
And Paul, what is your take on the matchup?
Well, I think the first thing you got to do is Gary Smith's got to go in and say, look, that Jacksonville game is over. It's done with. Let's go back to what we were doing that worked. They were not attacking Jacksonville like they had the last 4 or 5 matches. And even the loss to Ottawa, it was still that attacking spirit. Let's get the ball and let's go forward. Just get back to that, especially early in the match. Like Mike mentioned, you're dealing with highs in the 70s. We're dealing with lows in the 70s. It's 88 degrees here right now. It poured down rain this afternoon, but it's 88 degrees here right now. It's going to be that warm in the stands at kickoff Saturday night. It's going to be 110, 120 degrees on that alleged AstroTurf fit. I personally think it's concrete that's just painted green. They throw some rubber pellets down to make you think it's AstroTurf. It's awful, but it's hot, and that is a home field advantage that we can take advantage of. I really think teams have struggled the first 10, 15, 20 minutes of every match this season coming in and getting used to that field. Even though they get a training session on it on Friday night at game time, they still have struggled to get used to it. And I think if we'll go back to the same attacking form we've had, I think it's a very winnable game. Also, mainly because Indy 11's not bringing their band. I can't believe they're not bringing their band. You brought the band in May. Come on. They came down, played Hey Baby and Louie Louie, and had a good time. Made for a great atmosphere. And they're not coming this time, so oh well.
I think the Ultras may have had something to do with that. I know when they came down in April, Ultras got a little, I wouldn't say, well, violent would be the word, I guess you could say. Got a little bit out of hand, and so there was actually letters sent out, kind of like in Europe, where the police send out letters, or supporters groups and clubs send out letters before the game, take this route or stay away from these people. I know the Brickyard Battalion sent out letters saying, stay away, don't do this, don't provoke them, and somehow they still were provoked somehow, and yeah, I think the Ultras have a little bit to do with that.
Yeah, our Ultras, it doesn't take much.
No.
They're well organized. They're well oiled. They have a really nice tailgate. They sing fantastic. I like sitting near them because they don't stop singing. It's like sitting next to a European section. They're great, but yeah, they're not interested in being nice to the fans of the other team. They have no interest in that whatsoever. So yeah, there have been some issues. I saw the incident you're talking about at the first game. It happened in the section right behind us. And there was a little bit of pushing and shoving, but one cop stepped in and everybody separated. It's like, yeah, we want lots of bravado, but when push comes to shove, okay, I'll back off. All right, there was a scarf stolen. I know the Ultras sent out a tweet of them holding an Indy 11 scarf that they stole. It's like, okay, all right.
So, Paul, what are your score predictions for the match?
I think it's going to be a fairly high-scoring affair because I think we're tired and we're starting to make some mistakes on defense. So I could see it being 2-2 or 3-3, but I think we can pull out a win if we can jump out to a lead. I think if we can take advantage of that heat and that getting used to the turf and get a goal or two in the first 20, 30 minutes of the match, I think we can hold on for a win.
Jason, the Carolina Redhawks face the Cosmos. Do you think they can change their bad results?
That's an amazing question. I would love to see that we can turn it around. Now, I think the one, I don't know if it's saving grace, but there's a lot of bad blood in how the last game went between the Cosmos and the Railhawks. Not to rehash those nightmares, but
my favorite match ever.
No, not so much. Not so much. I guess for anyone who doesn't know the result of last match, the Railhawks were winning 2-0 going into stoppage time. The ref called for 5 minutes of stoppage time. And of course, the Cosmos was able to get that tying goal in the 97th minute. I think we had an own goal around like 92, 93 to bring it in within one goal. But to see a game-tying goal in the 97th minute when only 5 minutes of stoppage time was called, pretty rough to go through as a Railhawks fan because that would have every point helps, but it was a sucker punch in the gut. So I know the fans are not going to forget that, and our fans are going to be loud and ready to have the Cosmos come visit. Now, we're Southern hospitality at our place. I know we don't have the ultras that go crazy or anything, but we have Southern hospitality. But once that game starts, we are full fever for our Railhawks. So we're not going to forget that spring matchup. So hopefully that our fans can carry the team through. Because we need something. We need answers somewhere. Because the play on the pitch, it hasn't been the best of the season. We're kind of in a decline right now. We need something. We need something.
The referee called for 5 minutes, and he gave 5 minutes.
No, he gave 7 minutes.
It was 5. It was 5.
It's that Sir Alex Ferguson watch. Game can't be over. We're not winning
yet.
Come
watch back
on.
on ESPN3. Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh, some metric time rules. I don't know.
Yay, metric.
No offense.
Spencer, the Rowdies are going to take on Minnesota United. Do you think they can stop losing?
I think it'll. My heart wants us to say that we'll win 1-0 or somehow 2-1 or something. But honestly, the way they've been playing, unless Freddie Adu finally comes back and says, I'm not injured after his 15 minutes of fame when he came in and got an assist from off the bench, or if Omar Salgado comes back because he's also either injured or not fit, one of the two. If one of them come back, I think that'd be a big spark for the team. But seeing how Saturday went against the Strikers and how Wednesday went against Indy 11, and no offense to Indy 11, they're kind of like bottom of the we're at the bottom of the table in the fall, so we're going to go against Minnesota, who just beat Ottawa, who were top of the table. So if you do math, I honestly think we're going to lose like 1-0. But I'm hoping for a draw. I'm hoping we get 1 point out of 9 in 7 days. That is my hope. I hope it's a 0-0 draw.
Where do you see the Rowdies finish in the fall season table?
Oh, I see us finishing 4th with the Cosmos staying in 1st, so that means we make the playoffs. That's why I'm hoping. I feel like Thomas Rongen can really get this turned around. It's just we've had some injuries and everything, and if there's anyone that could probably turn this around, I'm hoping it's Thomas Rongen. His Twitter game can back it up, so hopefully his coaching game's there. If his coaching game is at his Twitter game, we will win the championship.
You're going to win the league.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll pull American Samoa and actually maybe get more than 1 win under his belt with a new team.
Oh.
Wow.
Whoa. So let's get talking about. Let's get
good.
talking to some Champions League. There is some news that there could be an America's Champions League. Ricardo Silva, the owner of Miami FC, would like to implement this to the region. What are your thoughts on this new Champions League?
Well, of course he wants to implement his own Champions League. He has a media empire that needs content. So it's not he doesn't have the best intentions for it. It's certainly something that would be interesting, though. To see the Americas joined by a Champions League. I wouldn't want to see the travel schedule, though. That would be a little bit crazy. So we're talking about eliminating the CONCACAF Champions League, which, okay. We're talking about eliminating the Copa Libertadores with its 100 years of history. I'm not sure exactly how far back it goes.
For that.
Yeah, so I don't know where this guy's coming from saying we can do this new thing. If anything, the Copa Libertadores would be merged with the CONCACAF Champions League. I don't see the Libertadores going anywhere. So, over to you guys.
That'd be a step down for Copa Lib to merge with the CONCACAF Champions League.
Yeah.
And I don't think they'd go for it. I think they would think it's diluting their product.
Yeah, I completely agree, and the level of love that tournament has in South America is not something that people are going to want to mess with. And each confederation has its own cup. I think that's a good system. I think we should keep that system, and I think we should put more effort into making the CONCACAF Champions League a more premier event. If each club treated Champions League the way that the Montreal Impact did this spring, well, then we've got it made. Look out, UEFA.
Well, the thing is, too, is number one, when are you going to play these games? Because you can't, if you play them in the summer, then obviously MLS is taking precedent. And if you play it in the fall, you can't really do that because all Central and South America teams are playing. You can't play it in the winter because MLS is kind of off. When are you going to play it? Like you said, the travel schedule. I can't imagine seeing the Vancouver Whitecaps travel all the way down to the very south end of Chile to play a soccer game and then have the second leg all the way back.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
And the third thing is that, MLS teams, both in the United States and Canada, they've had somewhat success. Real Salt Lake and Colorado Rapids made it to the finals a couple years ago, and then Montreal made it last year, but overall they really haven't even done that well compared to teams in Mexico who have simply won, I think, every Champions League. for CONCACAF. So I just can't see if they're struggling now. I can't imagine them playing a team in Brazil or River Plate or Boca Juniors in Argentina. And I think they'll get slaughtered. To be honest with you, I just don't think it would be a very fair or a competitive advantage.
I think maybe he's playing the politician game of put it the bar here, and really what you're hoping is this, and this might be a Super Cup, right? So the winner of Champions League in CONCACAF plays the winner of the Copa Libertadores for some sort of cup, sort of like they have in Europe with the winner of the Europa League and the winner of the Champions League. So maybe that's his end game, and he just decided to stir stuff up. He's really good so far at making us talk, so he's on a good streak for that.
I think that's what he's ultimately trying to do is start a conversation that he and his media empire are a part of, and whatever it turns into, I think he could try to figure out a way for it to benefit him. It'd be nice if the NASL could lobby for a spot in the CONCACAF Champions League. I don't see that happening anytime soon. I certainly don't see MLS giving up that exclusivity yet. But I don't see them giving up I don't see them giving any ground to NASL yet. But I think that it's going to reach a point where it could.
And Paul, the allocations for CONCACAF Champions League aren't done per league; they're done per country.
Per country,
and
right?
So it's the USSF that would have to decide. Oh well, we're going to give one to take it away from US Open Cup or something and give it to NASL. I don't see it happening because right now in the pyramid, NASL is second, and you send your best to the Confederation Championship. If an NASL team does like, say, the Impact did in 2008, and out of the A-League qualified through the Canadian Championship into CONCACAF Champions League, got all the way to quarterfinals, that would be an excellent incentive for an NASL team to first win the US Open Cup to qualify for the Champions League. I think that's the avenue they have to take for the moment until the NASL is the top league in North America.
Right, and USSF is never going to allow a non-MLS team to get an automatic spot until the NASL has grown to the point that they can't be ignored. I think
that's it. Yeah.
The example of the ABA and the NBA merging, that merger had to happen for both of them to survive. The example of the AFL and the NFL merging in the 60s, that upstart league grew to the point that the established league had no choice. They had to acknowledge their existence and make things happen. I think until the NASL is 20-24 teams, national TV contract, and starting to sign big players that won't go to MLS, I don't think they're going to give us an inch.
Yeah, and I think from our discussion last week about promotion relegation, I think what the path that I see, the vision that I have, if you will, is NASL implementing promotion relegation and it being so popular to the point that MLS kind of comes crawling back and goes, "Hey guys, can we play?" So that's maybe something that we can look forward to in the future.
Yep.
So that's all the time we have for today. Thanks everyone for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.